should benefit from the profits that now let me conclude by using the last 2 minutes, which is a new form by which governments are forcing indigenous peoples from their land on the misconception and belief, which has not been scientifically proven, that nature is better preserved when humans do not interfere with it. But we have known from time immemorial that indigenous peoples have been the best conservers and protectors of the environment and biodiversity. And environmental degradation and the loss of biodiversity has happened when indigenous people are taken away, are expelled from their lands, and the land is used by government and its partners for development purposes. Indigenous people had remained in their land, the climate change we face today, we will not be facing them. The best way to stop climate change is to make sure that indigenous people remain on their land, is to make sure that land that has been seized from indigenous people is restituted to indigenous people, and not to send militarized agents to harass indigenous peoples on a daily basis so that government and its agencies can reap the resources from these lands and thereby destroying the environment. The coercive conservation model does not work for Africa. And I will speak with authority because I have the commissioner from the African Commission who is here, that the Commission has stated categorically that fortress conservation models that require that indigenous peoples are taken out of their land is wrong and is not sustainable for Africa. Thank you very much.
Asante sana. Ndora ametafsiri kidogo anadedore mwisho amo rolimosi alega kesi nae oji olo rongana ko ogiek. Ore ogiek na enkabila bana riolonyoji mau tekenya. Ni holi abala rongana notice adogen tupukure nati mamo keyu serikali anati. Ore be holi na notice ne kwa serikali hote commission ya haki za binadamu ina limuni. Ore be kwa serikali honeta una commission amri Ariaga serikali Kenya ntaheye anani unias pengasa egilikwani hore ko laronganak na yakisha dole ngilikwana raninto na anasodera mbarakinot niru nininga na serikali Kenya yado munene bo Afrika mahakama Afrika haki za binadamu ora ibewe na mahakama nini ninyoreke sine ohyoreke sio merubu kumaamuzi ebu kumaamuzi nedo na mahakama Afrika orere ne serikali na ngulikoni ya otonganak na lazima vigilikwani hore nesuna na ibarakino na irara alimu akuta na ke yeunene atankaraki ombe maendeleo na lazima baanga sikilikwani hore nelikia na yuna yana kulikoni na dol sinta ko loronga na ado kaseba daga ira yana kulikoni tambe maendeleo na areroki yo kakore si rongana le kwanza lo yeuni ne dupore na maendeleo na asirai na lo venyango akore ne muruna yaga irai Angobe loliondo dankara kenyo na kigwanai nepeke ndubo na atumi emeza neji kanye rumiro rongana le loliondo tena yana kulikoni ene nije yeuni be serikali ore ne mwisho na emaka na elimwa in kumok euhifadhi ore mwana emaka euhifadhi na anasira aranchi Tanzania na neredo na fortress conservation ore ana fortress conservation na uhifadhi na enterra enkepo nitumiari akumi nini ngeronganak kitumiari enkufunita onerongana dia atu kulikoni ene tenaji peeripi uhifadhi. Ore naa ina netisika siinye Commission e haki za binadamu e Africa ajo mesipa ina. Etisika etaasaki nitu akata eas science najo teneoruni iltung'anak enkulukuoni enye neesi uhifadhi. Ore nitoki ajo ore taata nchi peetii mabadiliko ya tabia ya nchi ena hali nidoltata naa tenkaraki eorutoi iloopeny enkulukuoni enye. Metii iltung'anak ooyiolo aatorrip enkulukuoni enye anaa iloopeny. Ore aduo ketii naaji iltung'anak ooyiolo aatorrip enkulukuoni anaa iloopeny metaa etejo tenemutu naaji neorutoi iltung'anak enkulukuoni enye loopeny neyauni wawekezaji neyauni iltung'anak ooponu aas siaitin naainyal enkop manata mikiata ena mabadiliko ya tabia nchi.
With the translation, we are getting 5 minutes longer or so. I would like to call Madam Nema, and I want you to speak, to take it from where Samuel has left it. Because when you're talking about fortress conservation, we are speaking about activists, community members who have been harassed, arrested, arbitrarily detained sometimes, beaten because of defending land rights of the community. So where do you come in, and what do you see the situation as? So I'll call Nema, then Joseph, you start preparing. Yeah. And when you speak, just to shorten the time, you can already translate back to the community member so that we can release him a bit. Thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. As mentioned earlier, I'm Neema Senetoseki from NGORONGORO, and I'll be discussing the mentioned topic pertaining generally the gender to female. 25 of them were shot by live bullets. Hence, those women were the mothers of very many families. Therefore, they could not support their families anymore. And most of the women by then, when they were running out from the multitude, some of them were injured, and most of them, they lost their pregnancies. A number of them, approximately 200 of them. But that is not only the issue. We can see most of the kids were reported lost. And up to now, there are some of them who have not yet been found to this time. And about the social services, particularly in NGORONGORO, since 2022, the medical flying service was banned by the government. Therefore, most of the people, particularly women and children, could not get vaccines, and hence most of them could give birth at home, leading to death. And also, the kids could not be vaccinated. This was not a big deal by then, but now, since the situation is worsening, because the kids are not getting enough food, or actually they do not get food at all, because there have been restrictions from the government to bring food in NGORONGORO. So most of the women right now from NGORONGORO, they could move 1,000 miles to go and look for food. In the process of moving, some of them could be raped, some of them could even die. This is why we're simply urging the Commission to take a look on this issue and do something about it. We are actually saying that the conservation should conserve the people and the people in that land. But now what is happening in NGORONGORO, it's really not conservation. Where do we think that a conservation could kill its people? It's not right at all. Why do you starve people in NGORONGORO? That is not conservation. And about the education, we're having a number of schools there, but I'll simply talk about NGORONGORO Girls. NGORONGORO Girls is a school in NGORONGORO, but it has a number of about 500 students. But the school only have 5 toilets. You can imagine the situation there. Only 5 toilets for 500 girls. Yet the toilets are blocked. No one is going to work on them because the plumbers are not allowed to go to NGORONGORO. No construction is allowed to increase the toilets there. So most of the girls are ending up getting UTIs and so many other diseases. That is the hardest situation right now facing the women in NGORONGORO. Another thing is about the economy of the people in NGORONGORO. As we all know that we are living in a world that is men-dominated world. But when it comes to us Maasais, we are so much into that like men are the head of the families, and whatever a man can say, no woman can object. So when it comes to this issue of evicting from NGORONGORO, once a man accepts to evict, then a woman is actually obliged to do so, without even thinking of what is going to happen next. And if a woman tries to refuse, then the husband will take an action of taking the kids, or even leave the woman with the kids. But is cows, and the cows are the source of economy in our Maasai people. So when a woman is left alone, she will start thinking of how to feed her kids. There, the woman will start moving from NGORONGORO to Karatu. For the matter of fact, right now in Karatu, there are so many women, so many Maasai women in Karatu, and they're not even doing something that is productive. Most of them, you'll meet them sleeping at the verandas of Karatu. And what does that insinuate? If someone is going somewhere and not having what to do, actually, she will end up doing anything for money. As a mother, you can do anything for your kid. What does that mean? It means that this woman can do anything. When I mean anything, I mean she can even be a sex commercial worker so that she can get some money to feed her kids. That is the real situation that is happening right now in NGORONGORO. So most of the women right now are just meandering in different cities and leaving the kids at home and the elderly people. But most of the men are just mobile. They can move from one city to another looking for money, but the situation that is being faced by the people who are in NGORONGORO, they are mostly affecting the women, kids, and the elderly people. So I think the African Commission should take serious action on this issue. Thank you.
Keredo orera nyane magi mbana yusu ndomonok onkara oroka kuyani bayani kitwa akwara ananarasa serikali aitawu iltung'anak ore iltung'anak oiumia naleng naa ntomonok ashu nkera kutiti ashu iltung'anak kitwa lemeidim aakwet amu ore inakata apa piitauni iltung'anak loliondo telde ari tanapa kilomita 1502 naa ketang'oroki iltung'anak toonkimaitie netang'oroki ntomonok netang'oroki nkera kunyinyi netang'oroki irkakuyiani kumok looti loimena nemikiyiolo enakae taraki metuata mesipa neeku ketejo taa ninye kegira ntomonok aiteseka naleng amu kinewueji oontomonok onkera ninye iimaka neomon naa ena commissioner haki za binadamu te Afrika pee ejing'aki kuna siaitin naasita sirkali pemitoki aiumia ntomonok amu ketanyanyukie meeta ntomonok haki te NGORONGORO naa ore ena siai najoitoi kidurrita iltung'anak te hiari nemesipa amu kolee ketumoreki nejo aidurrita lenkop naloito nemikilikuani entomononi enake keyieu nelo enaim elo. Neeku tenejo entomononi en aaku meyieu nelo ning'uari oonkera paa mee ning'uari kanyoo naaku maayamuta nkera ashuuruni nkera enyenak. Neeku ore nena baa naagira aasayu negira aiumiza entomononi oleng oonkera oltung'anak kituak. Ashe oleng.
Many thanks, Nema. I'll just take a break to recognize the presence of our good Commissioner Dr. Musimi, Litha Musimi Ogana, who is the chairperson of the Working Group on Indigenous Populations, Communities and Minorities in Africa. Welcome, Chairperson. You feel free and at the right place. We also recognize the presence of UN Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Assembly and Association, Clement Vala. I'm not sure he has stepped out. Yes, but he was also here. And yeah, feel welcome. I'd like to move to the legal aspect of the issues that we are facing in Loliondo and NGORONGORO. And at this juncture, I'd like to invite Wakili, Advocate Joseph, to just come and give us in terms of where are we, how are things looking like, and how are the courts in Tanzania really expressing or pronouncing themselves to the issues affecting the Maasai community here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roland, for the opportunity, and everyone, good afternoon. Yes. And I think before going to a legal issue and how the court responds to this kind of issues, I think I would wish to comment on the main agenda of today of the coercive conservation model, which we say is broken. And I think that is very, very, very true. And before saying it is broken, we must understand the philosophy of the Tanzania conservation model, where it originates, how does it work. It is only then you can try to critique something, you know, at least its genesis. And I think many of you might understand, but let me say, the conservation that we have it now originates from, was influenced through the colonial time, which has its roots from the Yellowstones in United States, then went to UK and Germans, who were actually the colonialists here, then brought into the colonies. And you understand, at the time of colonialism, it was the colonialist versus subject, not citizen. So it was brought, in a way, it has a colored element. It has, the main philosophy is expansionism. From 0 to 40% of that Tanzania land is conserved. Not one was ever a result of a bargain. From Serengeti, which was the first, to Pololeti last year. All of them were the result of course, expansion, of course, but how do you do that expansion? You don't talk. You attack. And the Maasai were the first victim of that model in Serengeti. And it went to NGORONGORO, which they said it should be a multiple land use model. Is it multiple? Is it really a model? No. I'm from NGORONGORO. Over the years, because displacement can take many shapes. It can be a physical violence, as it was last year in Loliondo, where some people always say it's 70,000 people. You go to the national census last year, the 15 villages that were affected has a population of 97,000 people. The government never talked to anyone. They went on 9th June and started operation on 10. Displaced everyone. They burned bombers. They pull other down using some big wire pulled by the tractors. And everyone was given an ultimatum. We do not want you tomorrow. Not like you are saying about a notice by Kenyan government. Like sometimes they get out. It was, we do not want you tomorrow. It was on 27 June. And on 28, someone recklessly, maybe, some might say, remained in. And they shot all the cows, all the donkeys with bullets. That's how the Tanzanian conservation works. Expansion, how do you do military or violence? All the guys who are now working in the conservation sector in Tanzania are actually paramilitary, trained never to sit with anyone and bargain, but coerce, which actually shifted the real idea of conservation to protection of cause. So they do not even understand how can we progress in conservation. So if it is a tree, you protect from being fell down, not like plant another. They don't know anything about that. If you plant a tree today in Ngorongoro, we say Ngorongoro Conservation Area, I can tell you, you'll be arrested tomorrow for planting a tree. And they say that is conservation. And another element for it to work, because now if you use violence to expand, you need some justification. And how do you do that? Is not by research. And actually, there was an attempt to evict Maasai in Ngorongoro in 1980s. They went to UNESCO and say, how can we make these people out? And they sent, maybe some of you knows, Professor Homewood and Alan Rogers. Alan Rogers, I think, died last year. They wrote a very good report saying, actually, these people, the Maasai, will never affect the land. It is actually you who are changing them to become some kind of things you are imagining, which ultimately affect nature. But if you leave them alone, they are the best guardian of the nature. And after that, they never wanted a research again. They don't want scientific evidence. So how do you do then? It is, and it has been the case, of course, from America, from UK, from Germany. You do propaganda as a means to justify. And in this case, they say, and you all, I think, knows, these are Kenyans. They smell Kenyans. They are Sudanese. The Minister for Constitution and Legal Affairs last year said, Maasai do not have ancestral land in Tanzania. They have it in Sudan. Do we? Never. And the president says they are from Kerio Valley. Is that related to conservation? Never. And some says they do not bury dead bodies. Is that related to conservation? Never. They try to imagine something, whether humanitarian, fake humanitarians, or anything that might support it. Doing propaganda to justify, not research, because they know they will never get one. So those people, so many, polygamists, someone said in the royal tour, polygamist. Is that an issue? In this country, polygamy is part of some, of course, Maasai are polygamists, yes, that is a fact. Some are actually elements of religions. We do not go and attack someone because of the nature of their marriage. And ultimately, they justify conservation, coercive. And another element is not really nature influenced, but financially oriented. It is, we do it for hunting, we do it for hotel, we do it for tourism. Are those synonymous to conservation? Never. Hunting is not conservation. Hotels is not conservation. Tourism is not conservation. There are some different disciplines, of course, that some of them are actually a threat to nature conservation, including, for example, you are saying you displace all the people for sake of wildlife, and then you bring a person to kill them. That is not conservation. That's in my opinion. And mostly is top-down influenced. So we decide on the top, we never talk. And this is a philosophy. And I can give you 2 examples. In 1972, Professor Bernard Jimek, who actually influenced what happened in Serengeti, was in the Frank Physiological Society and the most friend of Mwalimu, many like Mwalimu. He said, I could work with Idi Amin or Joseph Stalin if they can help me protect the animal of Serengeti. And he says, when we were working about the Serengeti relocation of the Maasai, we never speak to parliaments because these matters of conservation do not work in a democracy. And last year, they went to parliament on 9 February. And one guy from Mtwara said, please do not talk to them, take the military. Because this philosophy never works in a democracy. So then we went to court, and this is a little summary I can give. Because these things has happened in 2017, we filed a case in court, in the South African court. And in 2018, the court issued a provisional ruling telling the government, please stop your operation until we finalize this case. Then before the case came into finality, there was Operation June last year, which is entirely a contempt of the court order. Okay, we have the finding of force almost 3 months later. Then following the operation last year, we filed several other cases. Some are pending in court. I cannot go to detail of that. But at least the response by the Tanzanian court so far, in the first case against the Minister Declaration of the Polo Game Control Area, which we have at least the ruling so far, said that mad operation last year never followed the law. Never voluntary, never sort of any discussion. They never produced one, at least that we interviewed 10 people, and they said we don't want. They never produced one. And the court said there is a requirement to consult people. And you said, rightly I think, it is always right to have prior informed consent. They never did one, not even uninformed. And so, and for the other cases about the game reserve, we have at least the ruling of the court suspending the government notice, if I can say about what the law, at least so far. So we have several cases, of course, in the South African court. One case about NGORONGORO, which actually touches about the denial of social service, where the government written letters, recklessly, openly, telling its officers, please withdraw the money by 5th April. A 5 days notice, all the school, Embarua, Nanoka, all the primary schools, and some other, they were actually saying, they issued a notice in 2021 saying, we want to demolish 9 primary schools. And the government alleged there were built without government consent. All are government facilities. There are people in this room who studied in those schools, and in almost 15 years later, the government says it was built without consent. The dispensaries, 6 out of 7. One police station built in 1979. How can that be possible? We need to trigger people out. Because this philosophy do not require participatory mechanism. And that's why we are saying this is a failed system. And I think we should facilitate its final demise. Because we cannot put all the people, 100,000 people in NGORONGORO, more than 100,000 people in Loliondo at expense of someone coming for hunting, a luxury. All of them wiped all the animals in their own areas, and they want to do some luxurious things, of which I think is barbaric, by the way. I think that's not the conservation that we want. We want the conservation that there is research that says 80% of the world biodiversity is preserved by, is in 5% of the land preserved by the indigenous people. And I think if that's the thinking, then we can go further, bring the indigenous people in, and ensure that we bring conservation into their lives. So I think, Roland, that's my brief comment. But one.
In 1 minute.
Yes. Okay. But one point is, now that displacement, I said it can take physical, but also it can be a long time marginalization, as it is happening in NGORONGORO. You starve people for 40 years, and then you come and tell them there is a place we have 700 kilometers away. They do not have health service, not food. So is it like you give an option. You continue here and die, or we take you out of to the land you never heard of it. So that's my brief. What are you Masai? Karejo, ole kunaba ya uhifadhi ya Tanzania Kenya nikiyolo na iponuro ambai na pasha. Ore ndokana kwa yakira yo niyola diru musungu apa ingwana roki Marekani netu ngwapi na Uingereza o Jerumani. Kaka ore nkara na iwa Tanzania niyolo la mo Serengeti terunye, Serengeti okorongoro. Ore peirero irua pedokini ameri iltung'anak lijo tomanare ojapa nte abarongoro enake enamesipa kake kama bakeria iltung'anak oirroiri lelo itu sii eponu aang'amu oloho pookin nejo kaji enda ijo iroro inari entoki najo irmaasai maura merenkai nemelo musungu emena medamumo meraa kermusungu fulani ora panguvu amuni wa koloni neponu aara irmaasai. Na ore lani pookin ore taata ardhi ya Tanzania mee irmaasai ake, ore ardhi ya Tanzania 40% naa ene uhifadhi. Metii nabo natiaka iltung'anak kaja kingo, kejokini ake embung'o. Naa ijo ore uhifadhi nikiata nee enempere. Mee enenkomono naji oye kiyieu nikintobirr ena kaja nda ijo iroro. Ekeji embung'o taisere. Na embung' ake nepiki hoteli enkang' ino. Amu niji ikunaki te Serengeti. Ore nilo enetii akeyie loota empeku Serengeti inewueji ketii nkang'itie hotelini oyiapa nimanyanya. Kake ore naa peetumokini ataas nejia peepanuari nena maeneo naa keeri hoi tempere tauni tendakule. Kake kanyo lelo oas tendakule naa iljeshi, irpolisi, irenjai. Kake neesi sii entoki naji propaganda neji ai joro ing'ou ntae merara lenakop. Anaimen jeshi deroi. Neji ai ele joroi iyata enkiti peuni jo mikiyiolo. Pee kitumokini aara eno naji ntol diankarna torrono piitumoki kunaja. Piitumoki ataara. Kake jo sii mpesai natii tekurum. Mee uhifadhi keon. Enijo taata maitautu iltung'anak oong'urr ing'uesi te Loliondo. Emaitautu sii hoteli, emaitautu sii kulo tung'anak le utalii. Meerari akata oltung'ani amu nche oosujita nche oota weitin neeyieu. Kake mirori teshumata eyauni nitadouni ake nijokini akeyie kigira rai tenewueji WMO, kigira rai tenewueji hifadhi. Neeku nche atejo kwa ufupi, lakini kitejo sii kiata irkesi likiata te mahakama laa ninche nai lelo logira alimu ajo kiata orkesi le obo oing'ua Korongoro likiata iltung'anak 1620. Kiata sii irkesin le Loliondo laa kajo egiro ile. Etii irkesin aare nai laa ninche egira aitaja apa piitangaza waziri le mali asili ajo ore entoki netejoki pololet naa pori tengefu nitoki arais ajo naa pori la akiba. Neeku kiata pokirare nikinoto hukumu e mahakama natejo itu apa esuji barakinot piitobiruni alapa politenge fule pololet etejo sii makamande ang'asi aitahikino alapa tangazo lorais amu kumok kulo tung'anak ootumito shida niyiolo ajo etii naa kulie tung'anak oigila ake aibung' nkishu are etejo mahakamani enaa metii netii taisere orkesi loo lelo tung'anak metaa entayiolo ake neeku nena kuti nanu aidim atejo. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bwana Joseph. I knew you will give a very good perspective of the, the status of the land or the lands in question, and it's good that you've spoken, especially on, the case and just given us, a brief in terms of where we are at. Tunamshukuru sana ndugu yetu Joseph, na wakati huu tunaenda kwenye ndugu yetu wa mwisho ambaye jina lake ni Edward Porokwa, ambaye mnamjua sana. Edward Porokwa, the head of Pingos Forum, and what I want him to speak on while introducing a state whereby before the Honorable Commissioner we may give an opportunity to 2 or 3 members of the community to just give their experience or what they've had to go through, so that it is before the commissioner, the chairperson of the working group on indigenous people, and after that we will go to the plenary where we will accept a few questions before we close. So Edward, I really want you to set the stage for members of the community to be able to at least speak on some of the issues. And I think at that stage, after you finish your 7 minutes, then you will give an opportunity to at least 3 people from the community to say something briefly with translation to the commissioner, and then we will invite the commissioner to say something before now we go to the plenary. So welcome, Bwana Edward.
Asante sana Ebole. And there's always an advantage. Asante sana. There's always a disadvantage of being the last speaker because almost everything will have been said. However, I will go through the experience of many of the people here, including the civil society, because everything had been said in detail on the history of the people of Ngorongoro and Loliondo and the atrocity that they have been getting through for the last 2 years or even beyond. But most importantly, one of the very big issues, and I wish if the Special Rapporteur on UN Special Rapporteur on freedom of expression is here, one of the major issues that is encountering the people in Loliondo and Ngorongoro is the issue of freedom to express all these grievances that have been explained by Senate Joseph and probably will be explained by the community. Second, the issue of threats, the issue of intimidation, the issue of labeling the people as people that are causing incitement. You may wonder how many people will wish to talk about the situation in Loliondo and Ngorongoro. But you will also wonder how much propaganda and how much lies is there in the information that is coming to the public and the information that is being given by the media, and we don't know how much have been spent by the conservation actors, including the government, in funding the media to give wrong information about the situation that is happening in Loliondo. This thing did not start on June 19th. It started way before. But maybe I can start from January 2022, when the government intimated the interest of evicting the people from Loliondo, and of course moving the people from Ngorongoro to Msomera, and how this has happened in different government platforms, in the parliament, by the offices of the ministries, and how the information was coming out that the people had been consulted, which was not true. And at the end of the day, how the media was used to do the propaganda that has led to the situation that we landed in June 2022. And only 10 or 15 days before that, before 9th, how the people of Loliondo and Ngorongoro differently made their report and submitted it to the government in a very participatory way on how they want to manage their land and the kind of conservation that they are going to implement in Loliondo. They submitted the report on 25th of May. That report has never worked. Only 2 weeks later, they were attacked. And how their leadership had been threatened. 27 Maasai leaders, traditional, arrested on a murder case, which has never gone to an end because the government said they have no interest in that case. How do we expect those people to continue talking about the situation? How do you expect the organization and civil society that have been labeled as people that are inciting the people and that they are coming with an agenda of the Western to support their financial interest in the Western country? This is what is happening. It is you will see how marginalization of indigenous people is happening in the country. You will see even how the civil society, other big civil society in the country, are not engaging on the issue of Loliondo because of the threat of deregistration, because of the threat of having cases in court. Everybody, every leader, many of them here have faced a police station simply because they have been vocal on the issue of Loliondo or Ngorongoro. We are also very concerned with the promotion visit of the African Commission of Human and People's Rights, which visited Tanzania this year, which many of these people wanted to talk to the commission, but the locations that were picked for them to talk with the commission were not favorable. And even some of them, after the departure of the commission, had to run out of the country because of the threat that came out during the visit of the promotion mission. It is very unfortunate seeing that this mechanism that are promoting also the right of indigenous people are so much controlled with the government, and people are really finding themselves very vulnerable, and particularly the indigenous people in Tanzania. We are not sure. We are not sure what will happen to people who will speak here today. We will not surprise if repression is taking place after this meeting, because this is the order of the day. It has been happening, and we don't surprise if it will happen even today. So I call upon the Commission to take note that the people that are going to talk here may face consequences, and that have to be followed up very closely to ensure that their rights are protected as individuals. Because many of the people here, even in the coming of this hall, have been here since 10, trying to get into this building. But see, I was walking behind Joseph. I was wearing this clothes. It is very Western. And Joseph was wearing this one. I passed. I was not asked the question. He was asked. Simply because he is wearing the Maasai attire. So I think it is time now we stop this colonial mentality. These are human beings. These are not animals. And this, even if we don't have the formal education that many of the government leaders have, but we are not stupid. We can think. I think it is time for the Commission to, this is a commission of the people. And that is why it is called the Africa Commission of Human and Peoples. And these are the peoples. And I think access to the Commission should be an issue of concern to indigenous people, and it has been seen here today when the indigenous people were fighting to get into this building. So formation that we have is exactly synonymous to what was done to us in the gate today. The people of Ngorongoro have the documents. They are online. They are submitted on the 25th of May 2022 in Dodoma in a colorful event where all the Maasai were wearing Maasai attire, and it was received. But this has not been taken into account. 9 or 10 days later, the councillors were arrested. On a murder case, we have people that disappeared, including Olengiyo, we don't know where he is. We have the case taken to court and withdrawn without any explanation. We have threats to human rights defenders. We have silence. We are now in silence. Many of us have been very silent for a very long time. Many of the human rights defenders who really are concerned on what is happening in Loliondo. Because even Somera is a village land, and the people of Somera have the right to land. But the way it is put, it is a game-controlled area. They don't have a right to live in that area, and that they are given. Just like the narrative that the government owned the 4,000 kilometer squares of Loliondo, and now they are giving people 2,500, and they're only keeping 1,502. And I think it is time also to look at the freedom of expression. Many of our media are silent, and even this story will not come out in the local media because of the threats that we have to the media and the civil society and individuals who are ready to talk about the rights of the people. I think I talk generally not about Ngorongoro, but about the situation that the people are facing here. Thank you very much.
Back here, just a 1-minute brief to your, come back to the Maasai community, just what you
I think you can do it.
You said a lot.
Asante sana. Olera anarolimuoni nye Edward Purukwane no mkurugenzi na alo chirizo the Pingos ena anarolimoki ne makamba na ongwan sapukin olera na iruruko na kededo olera na isumbuarira ko lorongana na ke goliro ne mekuli ni shori meroro ahora adu kiarira ne mekintole nanchera lakini ole ni are ahora adu mekule erumia rongane makimbe ngorongora mkebongi mekule erumia rongane ay makimbe ngorongora mtena tano ikilika nejithi usajili na rana kuna vyombo vya habari nemilikini SSI mara mekule rumiro ina rongane makimbe ngorongora ashulolio ndamo kerulishore rongana rankarake oya sana era asiraya murene morkesi yake kintoge na iki taraki ashunikintekai Irogiado orankai na kiruluke serikali kuna vyombo vya habari enana mera kitau mongo. Ako kese ntoki naji propaganda. Ali mumbe mongo nemesipa naati atua olosho le Ngorongoro ashu olosho lormaasai oruro iwejiti nenye. Neeku metaa ore mbaa naagirai aieneza naa mongo aku ore toi pee kiyieu ena kulukuoni naa kijo pee kias uhifadhi. Amu kegira irmaasai aaku keramatita nkishu ninyal uhifadhi, ninyal mazingira, ashu ninyal utalii. Ore enkai naa ketolimu ajo ore larikok lormaasai ashu lekuna wuejitin neeyaitai nemeng'asita ninye aikilikuan paa keji ore teldaari oshi pee eyai enkulukuoni Loliondo naa ketang'asaki aibung' ildiwanini karibu lenakop pookin. Ore ake pee ibung'i netumokini aimie ilo tangazo apaliyie lolo lorwaziri mee nijo petu. Ore naata kuna naataasaki pookin nemeurokini enaduo natejo Samuel amu etejo duo Samuel ore enayieuni serikali pees naa peetumore iltung'anak nikilikuanishore paa osa taata eibung'aki ilarikok paa ng'ae nikilikuani keeta neeku nitoki ajo kakalo tendorrop ketoomonuo enkamishen naa nejo ore taata ena commission ne haki oltung'anak metaa ore sintai itii na commission endorrip iltung'anak oinyanyasita endorrip iltung'anak oorutoi haki enye amu tenimirripirripi nemitoki naa aaku keeta entoki naasita na commission nitoki taa aimaki mbaa naagira aaku epukuto tenooki amu euruto irmaasai enkulukuoni te Kia te Simanjiro kila mahali paka Msomera amu ore ina kulukuoni naji eetai ntai Msomera enkop oolopeny siinye na ama lolo homo melarrabali homo atumore maa keuruto iltung'anak enkulukuoni enye neji game control area metaa mee ninye kipikita iltung'anak le Ngorongoro neeku eimaka nana pookin nisisitiza naa ajo entorrip iltung'anak amu kinyanyasitai keurutoi enkulukuoni kake ore sapuk naa ena naiturukie sirkali masaa vyombo vya habari metaa ketaa nte naitau mongo amu mekure etii likae tung'ani oiteu airoro amu keure ajo ibung'i nitaasi enayieuni. Ashe.
Many thanks Elia. Asante sana Elia. Najua si kazi rahisi kuzungumza baada ya Edward kuzungumza mambo yale ambayo alizungumza na mambo mengi yakiwa yanatokea ndani kabisa na mambo ya uchungu. Thank you so much Elia. I will now go to the Honorable Commissioner Litha Musimi of Ghana. Please come and address it. Thank you.
Asante sana moderator. Ningetaka kuwasalimu nyote viongozi, wazee, kina mama, vijana. Mko salama? Tumekuja leo tena. Nimesikia wakati nilikuwa ninasikiza kuna watu ambao hawajui tulikuja Tanzania na tulitembea. Ningetaka kujua kwa mkono wale watu tulizungumzia ikiwa wako hapa. Wengine ninawatambua. Kwa mkono wale watu tulizungumzia. Mnaweza simama? Hii inaweza saidia. Wale watu wakati tulitembea, wale watu tulikuta kina mama, viongozi, vijana wengi. Asanteni, tafadhali kaeni chini. Wataalamu ambao wamezungumza hapa, ningetaka kuwashukuru sababu mmefafanua hii mnaita coercive conservation model. Na sababu nyinyi ni wataalamu, sitaongezea kwa hiyo. Vile nitafanya, nitajaribu tuzungumze kidogo. Wakati tulikuja safari ile tulikuja hapa mwezi wa pili, kazi yetu ilikuwa mbili. Tuje tukutane na watu wa Ngorongoro, wenyeji wa Ngorongoro, wa Loliondo na Msomera. Kitu ya pili tulikuwa twende Dodoma tukutane na viongozi. Tuwaeleze ile kazi tulimefanya, ile maoni tumetoa kule mashinani. Hiyo ndio ilikuwa kazi yetu. Ndio inaitwa objective ya mission. Hiyo ndio ilituleta. Na tukaja na tukaenda Ngorongoro hatukuenda town. Tulienda mpaka kwa Kreta. Hata hiyo shule imetajwa hapa ninaikumbuka. Tulienda kwa shule, tukaenda kwa madarasa, tukaenda kwa mikutano ya hadharani. Tukakutana na watu na tukawasikiza. Hata kuna mkutano mmoja tulifanya karibu usiku. Sababu tulijaribu kukutana na kila mtu. Kutoka hapo tulikuwa tuende Loliondo. Na tukaenda pale ndege ilitua. Ilikuwa kama kilomita 100 na pale eviction ilifanyika. Kwa hivyo hatungeweza kufika Loliondo sisi wenyewe. Tulijaribu, lakini tulionyeshwa mipaka. Ile ilikuwa karibu na hiyo kituo ya DC. Tuliona, lakini kuna ingine tuliona tukiwa kwa ndege. Hata tuliona ile camp ya wawidanji kutoka kwa ndege. Hatungeweza fika huko. Tulifanya nini? Sababu hatukufika Loliondo. Tulijaribu kukutana na viongozi kutoka Loliondo ambao walikuja hapa Arusha, na tukakutania na wao kwa ofisi ile courtroom yetu ya African Court. Haikukuwa rahisi, na tungetaka kushukuru NGOs wale tulifanya kazi nao, sababu walikuwa wanatuambia mnangojewa hapa, tunajaribu kufika, saa nyingine hatuwezi, mnangojewa hapa, mnangojewa hapa, mnangojewa hapa. Kwa hivyo tulifanya kazi na wao, na tulisikizana, tukajaribu vile tulingeweza kusikiza factions zote, kila mtu. Tukasikiza serikali, tukasikiza Ngorongoro Conservation Area, tukasikiza indigenous people, na kutoka hapo tukaenda Msomera. Wakati tulikuwa tunaenda Msomera, hatukunjua tutakuta nini Msomera, sababu Ngorongoro tuliwaambiwa watu wanahamishiwa Msomera. Wakati tulifika Msomera tukakuta changamoto zingine huko chini, lakini pia tukaona bila serikali inajaribu kujitetea na maendeleo. Tukaona mashule, tukaona hospitali, tukaona maji, tukaona I need some water please. Tukaona na pia tukasikiza viongozi. So vile nilikuwa nataka kusema ni ati tuliitisha serikali, sababu tukiambiwa na watu serikali ilifanya, tukauliza serikali itupatie evidence, ushahidi. Sababu tukienda pahali tunaambiwa hivyo ndio ilifanyika, tukauliza serikali ituletee ushahidi. Wakatuma timu kutuletea huko Mbanju. Vile tulikuwa tunaambiwa hii ilifanyika, tukauliza serikali, wakatuma timu ikatuletea. Kazi yetu ni kuangalia hiyo maoni yote tulichukua kutoka kwa serikali, kutoka kwa conservation, the national park, kutoka kwenu, na kuangalia tuna analysis, kuchambua, tuchambue, tuangalie pale tunaona ni wazi, tunasema kwa ripoti. Pale atuelewi, tunauliza serikali ifafanue. Hiyo sio kazi rahisi, wacha niwaambie. Sababu tumetoka hapo na maoni kama hivi, kutoka like this. Kila mtu ametuzungumzia, tumeandika. Kwa hivyo ripoti haiwezi kuwa tayari tu hivi. Lazima tuandike report, na tunawauliza mtupatie nafasi ya kuandika report bila kuacha chochote. Kazi yetu ilikuwa kuwasikiza, na kazi yetu sasa ni kumaliza report. Kwa hivyo tunaandika report. Tukimaliza tutatumia serikali report, tuambie hii ndiyo maoni yetu. Serikali inaweza sema hapana, sisi hatukusema hivi, tukifika hapo tutajua kama tutarudi tena kwa ground kufafanua ama ripoti iko wazi wazi ili iende stage ya pili. Na stage ya pili ni serikali ikipatia maoni yao, sisi tutatengeneza ripoti vizuri, alafu ndio ripoti itakuwa tayari. Lakini nataka kusema kitu kingine. Ripoti haiwezi maliza shida. Ripoti haitamaliza shida. Changamoto zile ziko ni za viongozi. Viongozi ndio watakaa chini wakipata report, waenda na report kwa mheshimiwa yule mmechagua, mumwambie hii report imesema 1, 2, 3, muende kwa serikali mkae chini, mtengeneze kamati ya viongozi. Wakati mkitapata report, ikiwa mnasikia kuna pahali haikuingia vile mlikuwa mnataka, ili mtatue shida. Sisi kazi yetu kama kamati ya haki za binadamu na watu ni kusaidia serikali. Hatuwezi fanya kazi ya serikali, lakini tunaweza saidia serikali. Tumesikia kuna uvumi ya media, propaganda. Ukweli haupotei sababu ya uvumi. Kwa hivyo vile ningetaka kusema mambo ine, changamoto ile tulishika kwa kijumla: utumizi wa nguvu, wakati watu walikuwa wahamishwa, ama hiyo utumizi wa nguvu ilikuwa kitu moja. Ukosefu wa kuwasiliana, consultation, ukosefu wa kushauriana, hiyo tulishika. Ngorongoro, kitu ya tatu. Ngorongoro tulikutana na watu ambao walikuwa wanataka kuhama. Wakatuambia sisi tunataka kwenda Msomera wenyewe. Ile shida iko, number 1, serikali haijatulipa, ama hatuko na hakika serikali itatulipa vile ililipa watu wale walienda mbele yetu. Lakini hao Ngorongoro wengine walisema wanataka kuhama. Hiyo ni changamoto nyingine ya tatu. Tuliona kuna wale wanataka kuhama. Ya 4 ni kuna wale hawataki kuhama. Hizo ndizo changamoto tuliona. Sisemi mambo ya report. Hapa ninawaambia sababu kazi yetu, nyinyi ni wananchi. Kazi yetu ni kuwapatia information. Kuwaambia hizo ndizo changamoto ile 4. Naweza sema kwa kijumla tuliona. Kuna wale watu hawataki kuhama. Na sisi tutasema hivi ndio tuliona, tulizungumzia kila mtu, hii ndio changamoto tuliona. Alafu details. What are the details? Mambo ya kindani ya report, vile kila mtu alisema ng'ombe ilipatiwa chumvi wakafa, mambo mingi tulipatiwa story zote na tukaandika. Kwa hivyo hiyo ndio itaenda kwa report. Ile kitu ya maana ni amani. Mtafute njia zenu za kuzungumza na serikali wakati mtapata report. Na nimeshataja mko na serikali, mko na watu mnapigia kura, wale wa kisiasa. Hao ndio watu watawaambia vile mtafanya na report. Lakini kazi yetu tumejaribu. Ametangulia mimi alisema tulikuja na hakukuwa anaridhika sana na kazi yetu. Na mimi vile ningetaka kusema kazi hatuwezi mfanya yote. Tulikuja tu siku 5. Tukajaribu vile tunaweza. Hakuna kitu mpya tulisikia. Nimesikia kesi zingine ni za zamani sana. Sisi kazi yetu ni kusikiza hizo story na kujaribu serikali kutatua shida ya watu wake. Lakini jukumu ya kutatua ni ya serikali na wananchi. Nitamalizia hapo na niseme asanteni sana kwa kuja, na kama ninawasalimia mambo ya kimila, tulijitokezea ndio tukaja tukawasikiza. Mambo ya kimila sio shida, changamoto tu sio Tanzania peke yake. Nchi zingine pia ziko na changamoto zao. Nyinyi mnasema mnafukuza sababu ya wanyama wa pori, kuna wale wanafukuza sababu ya madini. Kuna wale wanafukuzwa sababu ya madams zinajengwa. Kuna wale wanafukuzwa kwa hii na hile. Kwa hivyo kazi yetu ni kuangalia kesi. Kila kesi tunaangalia vile nchi inatatua hizo changamoto zake na kupatia serikali mawaidha yetu ili tupate suluhisho ya shida zetu zote. Kwa hivyo asanteni sana, na ninawahakikishia sisi tutajaribu tuwezavyo kutengeneza ripoti yetu bila kufunika chochote. Lakini ripoti tutarudisha back kwa serikali, ndio itafanya implementation. Serikali ndio itafanya utekelezaji. Asanteni sana.
Roningo. Yeah. Maegel, thank you, Commissioner. I'll try to translate to English.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So she was talking about their visit to Tanzania in February this year. They said they came to Tanzania and they walked around and met people, different people in Ngorongoro. And later they went to Loliondo. She also tried to point those people who they met at the time they came. And she talked about what the panelists said about the kind of conservation we are having in Tanzania, in Africa and Tanzania specifically, the cohesive conservation or fortress conservation. And when they came, they met people in Ngorongoro. Later they went to Loliondo, and they couldn't reach the place where the people were evicted forcefully, because but they saw it when they were in the plane. They later went to Msomera, and the government was trying to show them some developments they set up in Msomera, so that the people who will be relocated to Msomera will get all the social services. But they wanted evidence, and so all the evidences collected from the government will be analyzed vis-a-vis the opinions from the people. And they also went to Dodoma to meet the government officials, and later they will write a report and share to the government and your leaders. And she also insisted that when they share the report, your leaders will have a responsibility to take to the government and try to push the government to do what is rightful. The only thing she ensured the community is that they will make sure that nothing will be left out in the report from what they collected from the community and the government leaders, officials. She also pointed some of the challenges they observed as a commission. One is a forceful eviction, which was certain that the people were forcefully evicted. There was no consultation at all, and some people, when they talked to the people from Ngorongoro, they realized that there were people who were ready to relocate, but some were not. And a lot were not ready to relocate, And for those who were ready, they were saying they are not even, they are not be paid like they used to pay those who went first or relocated first. And she also talked about the details they of the information they collected from Ngorongoro, where livestock were fed with poison minerals. So all these things will be in the report, which they will share. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope, Honorable Commissioner, that our friend Elia has summarized, at least, or tried to summarize in a good manner what you just presented. Ladies and gentlemen, mabibi na mabwana, tunachelewa kidogo na tungependa kumaliza kikao hiki mapema. Kwa hivyo ningependa kuuliza labda maswali. I'd like to ask for at least 2 questions from NGO representatives in the room, and then 2 community members, and then I will give the opportunity to the panelists to respond before we come to a close. Nimesema kwamba tunapatia nafasi taasisi za kijamii 2 ziulize maswali, na pia labda wanajamii ambao wako na swali ama wana neno ambalo wanataka kusema 2. Kwa hivyo labda kwa ishara ya mkono, kuanzia kwa NGO kwanza. NGO kwanza. Kwa sababu microphone ni moja na ni hii hapa, hakuna microphone ya kuzunguka. I will ask you labda to just come this way. The lady, the 2 ladies.
Women organization for promoting unity, and I also work with indigenous people, but in Rwanda they are called Abatwa or Twa people, and our indigenous community also face all the problems that Maasai people are facing, like being evicted from their land and also not having anything in compensation, or maybe also the small portion of those people who got a reimbursement was not very effective. For example, since I work on women, I will briefly talk about what women and girls are facing. I mean, girls and children are facing. Some few people who have got where to settle, they don't have all the basic needs like water or land to cultivate or anything, so they're facing an extreme poverty. So what I wanted to say is that we also need commissioners to take note about this, that also in Rwanda, our indigenous community are being shutted down, and they also need their land so that they can see how to survive, since they are living with extreme poverty and they don't have any way of survival. Thank you.
Good evening, comrades. I'm Christine Kandie. I'm from Kenya. I'm from Indorois community. I'm happy that today we are putting a face of a struggle, and even our community struggle has become an inspiration to people of Ngorongoro of Tanzania. I really understand about what it means being evicted from ancestral land. We suffered the same blow as you, our brothers, our mothers, our sisters who are here today. And I had to come here because I heard about our case. I heard about the people's MRG, who are able to hold our hands up to African Commission. And today we are at African Commission. We are in Tanzania. You are facing a very serious issue, human rights issue, just like ours. But the thing remains is that we have to remind the Commission that you did the best to our community. We brought our cries to you. But when you don't put a very tough implementation guidelines, it will remain as it is in papers. So maintain the struggle, maintain the spirit. We will be a generation that will have their stories in our books. Thank you so much.
Yule dada wa kwanza kejira ena irona na irukodela ni wa Rwanda uchiliko juopu na yegedugirwa commissioner na irinkala na nyanya stress na ko Rwanda na ka umona ebe adamosine na lo na dola na dole ni kenele roki ola na tusuyo ni Christina ni wa ne Kenya ndiliko Jendrois na kishukuru ro MRG uchilika duole ngwa Samuel la intara le roki lo rona le keno jogieki Irogi adokake tene bukuna na maamuzi ya mahakama nemesi shoreki na yako katasini ya iri nemelero gorongana. May I ask a question which will go to the panelists and specifically to the commissioner? Maybe we have a ruling which was issued on 22nd of August, which stated the operation of government notice number 604, which established the defunct Pololet Game Reserve, which is now, which the order said the operation of that GN has to stay pending the determination of the main suit to be filed by the applicants. Now, despite that order, the operations are still going on in that area. People are being harassed. People are being arrested. Their livestock are being illegally seized. So, what is the implication of that in respect of rule of law, and what will the Commission help in making sure that rule of law is upheld? Because if there is no if there is nowhere people to get hope, like the court, which is a place where people can run to expect to get right, where else? Because so my question is, what is the role, or what can the Commission do to make sure that the court orders, which is the place where people can seek right, can be protected?
Thank you so much. So I think that question will go to the Commissioner. I can see Odera and there was one, and that man. Those are the only ones that will take questions right now. Then from the community, I have been given at least 3 names so that I do not get to pick all hands. And these people have traveled more than 1,000 kilometers to come here. Is it? And this is Frank Kubwera from Bunda, Mwarabu from Somera, and Lucy from Malinyi. So those 3, please prepare. Wale watatu, Frank Kubwera, Mwarabu kutoka Msomera, na Lucy kutoka Malinyi, jitayarisheni na maswali ama maoni yenu. Tafadhali dakika moja kila mmoja ili turudi kwenye wazungumzaji tumalize kikao hiki.
Asante. Mimi nitamuuliza swali Commissioner. Ameongea kwamba wanaandaa ripoti na yawezekana ripoti ikachukua mwaka na zaidi. Hasa je, haki za binadamu zinazoendelea kukiukwa, watu wanaendelea kuumia, nazo zitasubiri taarifa? Mimi ningependa nimuombe, kama kweli Commissioner wako serious, wafanye mkutano wa dharura na serikali ya Tanzania kabla hawajaondoka kwenye hii ardhi ya Arusha. Hiyo itatupa imani kwamba kweli wako kwa ajili ya kutetea haki za binadamu. Haki za binadamu ni kitu ambacho hakiwezi kusubiri. Mfano, mtu anabakwa hapo nje. Je, tutasubiri tuandike ripoti alafu tupeleke ili ndio asaidike, au tufanye dharura, kwa sababu swala la uvunjifu wa haki za binadamu ni swala la dharura? Bahati nzuri kamishna wa masuala ya indigenous ni mama. Mama, unajisikiaje kama wanawake wenzako ambao wamekosa huduma ya afya ya uzazi? Unajisikiaje kamishna kama watoto wadogo ambao wanazaliwa watakosa chanjo kwa sababu tu huduma hizo hazipo? Utajisikiaje? Hili nalo lisubiri ripoti. Nadhani mama, na bahati nzuri rais wa nchi hii ni mama mwenzako, na kwenye tume ya haki za binadamu wako wa mama zaidi ya 3. Mnaonaje kwa dharura kabla ya tarehe 10 mtakapomaliza hapa tarehe 9, ombeni appointment, special appointment kwa rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, muelezeni kuliko kusubiri hii ripoti. Asante.
So Odero was asking specifically the commissioner that if we are to wait for the report to be published and the people are being beaten, harassed and forcefully evicted and their livestock are being illegally seized, will the report wait? Why don't you take provisional measures and make sure that before you leave the country? Unfortunately, you are a woman, and the people who are suffering are women, the people who are not getting reproductive health are women, and the people who are suffering are children, and you are also a woman who have children. And there are 3 commissioners in the commission. Why don't you take provisional measures to make sure that you ask for appointment and meet government officials or the President of the United Republic of Tanzania to make sure that these things are not excel anymore?
Habari za mchana, shikamoni. Mimi nauliza swali kwa commissioner kwamba mlipokuja Tanzania mwezi wa pili, matarajio ya jamii popote mnapofika ni kwamba mtaitendea haki. Lakini mlipokuja mlipokutana na CSOs mliwapa dakika haizidi 30, mlikuja kwa kuchelewa kupitia mfumo ya serikali. Je, hiyo ndio utaratibu wa commission? Lakini ya pili, wafanyakazi hamwezi kwenda kufanya mission ya utafiti mkiwa na watumishi huru. Afisa mwandamizi mtafiti wa kwenu ni Mtanzania, na wakati mtu pekee tunayemlalamikia ni serikali ya Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Sasa ni wakati gani mtajua huyu mtu yuko neutral kwa commission ama anatumika kupeleka maandiko yenu kwa mfumo wa serikali? Natoa mifano mingine. Mlipokuwa na Inokanoka, watu wanaolalamika ni wananchi wa Ngorongoro, lakini Inokanoka unahoji watu wako mbele ya DC ambaye ndiye anatumika kuumiza watu, mnahoji watu mbele ya maafisa wa polisi. Huo ndio utaratibu wa commission. Tulidhani kwamba commission ingekuwa na mfumo wa kuchukua maoni ya watu wanaoumizwa katika mazingira huru. Hamuoni kwamba mnahatarisha maisha ya watu kwa kuhoji katika mazingira kama hayo? Mlipoenda Msomera, mliwahoji watu vile vile mbele ya RC, alikuwa mkoa kipindi hicho. Tena mbele ya, hakuna mtu aliweza kuongea mbele ya mkoa, ndio mwenyekiti wa kamati ya ulinzi na usalama ya mkoa. Na wakati mnaingia hapa, na atoa kama mfano hai, wakati wote wanasumbuliwa pale, afisa wenu mwandamizi ambaye anahusika na masuala ya utafiti, tunasema haya kwa sababu maisha ya watu wetu yako hatarini. Miongoni mwa watu walioweka kizingiti watu wasiingie humo ndani alikuwepo. Mimi nilikuwepo, nilikuwa na macho yangu, nilikuwa na masikio yangu. Kuna mdada alitaka kwenda kuingilia ile swala, lakini akaenda akasema naye chemba, nikamsikiliza anasema kwa nini hawa Masai wanakuja siku ya leo tu? Nikamudaza, nikashangaa. Hiyo ndio kazi ya afisa wa commission? Kwa hiyo ndio kwamba ni kwa mazingira kama hayo mnatuhakikishia kwamba ninyi ni tume huru ya watu na haki za binadamu. Na hayo tunauliza kwa.
He asked about the independence of the commission because he was worried of it. When you came to Tanzania on February, you only offered 30 minutes to the CSOs to talk, and you were accompanied by the government officials. And when you went to Nainokanoka, one of the ward, the people are speaking before the district commissioner and police officers, and you have heard from the panelists that people are being threatened and people are actually being oppressed, and they are not given any freedom to express their grievances. So if in that circumstance, how do you expect people to give freely what they think in those environments? So he's commenting that there were any friendly environments to the community by the time you are collecting their opinion. Also, when you went to Msomera, people were speaking before the regional commissioner by then and police officers, and actually he think there is no any independence, or else you ensure us that there is independence of the commission. Also, he also commented on the gate, when the people are entering the gate. The people came since 10 a.m., but they were stopped. And some of the people who are stopping them, he noticed one of the staff from the commission. So he's wondering, if the commission is for human rights, why are they stopping people who are crying?
Thank you. So I hope you are noting. I think the questions have come mainly to the commissioner. I will give an opportunity to only 3 community members in the interest of time. Samahani ndugu zangu wa Masai. Nitawapa watu watatu peke yake ili turudi kwenye panel ambayo itajibu maswali ikifungia. Na hao ni Frank, please njoo huku mbele. Mwarabu, please njoo huku mbele. Lucy, karibu mbele. Na wa mwisho ni Nukishili Purungei, karibu. Tafadhalini dakika moja na msirudie kile ambacho kitakuwa kimesemwa.
Okay, thank you. My name is Frank Kubwera. I'm coming from Mara region in Tanzania, in a district called Bunda. I want the commission to note a case of a place called Nyatwari. Nyatwari is among the places which the government is in the process of evicting people. There it is a settlement of more than 5,000 people with more than 30,000 cattle, sheep, goat, and cow. But from 2008, the government is in the process of evicting people there without any government document, without GNI, by using forces, propaganda, and manipulation. So in Tanzania, the case of evicting people and grabbing people, native people's land, is not only about Maasai. We hear too much about Maasai because the Maasai people are very united. That's my addition. Thank you.
Kejirani nye Frank ni mkoji Mara na ewe neji Nyatwali na irauresi na ronganak lahaba yake nge kimiro nkishuna wantare na haba yake yokosom na oruro yonkudukoni nyamara ke romo na commissioner na be ya senya nam mera masa ya ko be nyare daga ke bwagira antra masa ya mwera na bisho.
Lawa wanda sobai. Kwa jina naitwa Mwarabu Peneti, natoka kijiji cha Msomera, wilaya Handeni, mkoa wa Tanga. Mimi ni msaliwa huko Tanga, na tangia mwaka juzi ndio tumepata habari ya kwamba kuna mradi. Sisi ndio wale wasaliwa huko, na mradi ametuasiri vibaya sana. Ametuasiri mara nyingi kwa sababu anaelewa ndugu zetu kabisa, na ni kwamba wakati mradi alipoingia hakuna ripoti aina yoyote alioshirikishwa wananchi kwamba kuna 1, 2, 3, hakuna. Kuanzia viongozi wa vijiji, viongozi wa kata, viongozi wa wilaya. Basi walipofanywa hivyo, ikawa wewe kama ile eneo yako umekaa inajengwa nyumba, mashamba kinajengwa manyumba, alafu kinagawia hawa watu wanaeletwa. Tukawa watu wamenyamaza. Tuliponyamaza tukashindwa hata namna ya kulalamika. watu wanapojaribu kukaa na kufikiria kwamba ni nini, ni tukasingirwa. Tukawa sasa sisi kama watu wa huku, wananchi wa huku, ni kwamba alioumia zaidi ni zizi, kwa sababu tumenyang'anywa ardhi tayari na hatupewi haki wala hutambuliki. Kwa hiyo tunashukuru kwamba shirika la Pingos alituchukua hatua kidogo. Alituita, tukaja bahati nzuri tukakutana na hawa makamishina, na wale makamishina walifika kama alipoongea nani huyu dada makamishina alifika, na tulijaribu kuongea naye. Alikuja kutusaidia hatua kidogo, mpaka serikali alikuja kutuangalia kwa dakika moja, lakini ni kitu cha ajabu. Ila naomba kamishina kama nasimamia haki aongeze, kwa sababu sasa hivi tumeumia zaidi. Yeye alipofika huku ilikuwa tuna afadhali, sasa hivi tumeumia zaidi na zaidi, kwa sababu kuna mambo ya maajabu. Tumenyang'anywa ardhi, wanapewa wenzetu. Je, tukiishi na wenzetu tutakuwa kuna amani? Kwa hiyo naomba kama kuna sehemu inayosimamia haki au ukweli, naomba itendeke kwa mara moja, kwa sababu watu wameumia zaidi zaidi. Asanteni.
So this gentleman is from Msomera, Tanga, Handeni. His name is Mwarabu Peneti. He said we are the natives of... When relocation started, we were not informed. We were just surprised to see people are coming. The government is building houses in our land, the land which was owned by individuals in Somera. So there was no any land or any public land which was not owned by the people of Somera. When we tried to ask why, the government shut us down, like, if you keep asking, we'll take you to court or we'll do whatever we want, and you'll do nothing. So he insisted to the commissioner that there is a lot of abuse of rights to property in Msomera.
Wakubwa shikamoni, wadogo habari zenu. Mimi kwa jina naitwa Lucy kutoka Malini. Ombi langu na kero langu ni kuhusu sisi tunanyanyaswa kule Morogoro. Kule Morogoro tunateseka, tunahamishwa wafugaji. Tumefanya kila namna lakini bado hatueleweki. Kiujumla tunateseka. Asante.
Enda supa pookin. Ashira na rishara naishoki yiok maikilikuanu maswali. Ore entoki nang'asa aikikaaji nanu orkishili ole naing'isa. Nang'asa aikilikuan ena kitengo naji enekamishe ajo kesipa dii eetai haki oltung'ani. Amu ore yiok kitii ena wilaya Ngorongoro nashoti ololiondo nikitejo apa meetai esipata oltung'ani. Nikijo meeta entoki naitasheki. Amu etoorutuo yiok esikingilikuan esipata oltung'ani ajo etooruoki yiok haki pookin akeyie naji enaata oltung'ani. Metooruoki yiok enkulukuani mekure kiata. Etooruoki yiok iltung'anak neeri metuata neetai naa esipata oltung'ani. Enyaakaki aoru yiok nkishu endaa nikinosita mekure kiata. Naikilikuan nai ena tomononi ajo eteena ntomonok kulo orki itaituo nkiyioitin neetai esipata oltung'ani. Enyaakaki aaku ore tenakata nkera oonkishu etii enkaji aena netooruoki lasho etumuta olameyu negirai ake aoru yiok impisai. Nang'asa aikilikuan ajoki kianyu dii ratiba nai nijoito peesiri nena tokitin pookin naagira aiumia nikigira aye. Naire entomononi, naa entomononi narikito yiok nikijo pee kijoki iyie tenaa ira oltung'ani osuj esipata oltung'ani tabaiki entomononi tiaki ishirita nkulie netuata. Amu etooruoki sana entoki naji enaisho etooruoki esipata enye. Amu etooruoki oltung'ani ooruni enkiteng. Ore enkae toki Etejo naaji eripoti piiyaya. Kitejo yiok ntomonok naing'ua ake ninye olosho lormaasai kiwaita ripotini wueitin pookin neitabaikini. Itu akata kitum esipata. Nikijo amaada ena nikintoki aya esipa kitum esipata. Ore enkae toki nikintoki aisho entomononi ena naji ene Khamishen kijoki emeeta doi oshi ninye wa Tanzania esipata natumie rais ntomonok ormaasai. Matoliki sii yiok isipat. Ore ene musho naitanap tayiolo ajo ore enkaji entomononi ntai taata naarikito. Meeta taata esipata natum amu mikitum uongozi wowote tenkaraki entomononi naiumia yiok naa ninye natara yiok naa ninye natoomon yiok nkishu neeku yiok esipata oltung'ani. Ajo paajoki shomo nanapa tine nimilo te Tanzania itu esaru yiok amu kiata tanakata yiok nkishu natii enkaji naayena. Etumurate duo orkuo loonkera, etumurate olasho loonkishu. Emuta nkera ontomonok tenkaraki meeta orkirowuo oishoritai. Naa entomononi narikito enkop. Nilotu ajo pee kintoki aing'oru eripoti. Meeta enikiya eripoti amu kindipataki.
So the first lady is from Malinyi. She is also crying of the same problem, the same forceful eviction in the pretext of conservation. So take note of that. And the other lady is Norkeshili. She's asking on the word right. She's saying, does really the word right exist, and was it meant for the people? Was it meant for the people? Because all our land is taken, children and people are being killed, our livestock are being taken, and as we speak today, right here or recently, more than 600 livestock have been seized and detained illegally by the rangers. And you are telling us to wait for the report. Can those livestock wait? Can the kids or the young men who are arrested, who are in detention currently, can them wait for the report? And because you are a woman, are you telling us we should never have a woman leader? Are you telling us we should never have a woman leader in our country because these problems have started immediately when Samia Suluhu got into power? Are you telling us to never ever have a leader of a higher position, woman? So she's insisting for you to take it very seriously, because there are people who are in prison, who are in police custody now. There are 100 livestock detained by the rangers in the different Pololet Game Reserve. And so if you tell us to wait for the report, you will find us died.
Thank you so much for the questions. We only have 5 minutes to close this meeting. Most of the questions have come or have gone to the Commissioner, Honorable Alitha. So I would give, just as you're seated, from Edward to Nema to Joseph and to Samuel, 1 minute. Please respect just in terms of closing, because most of these are not questions that have been asked to you. So your closing remarks, and then Honorable Commissioner, you can come and maybe respond to some of these questions. Some of them are repeated, and then we close this meeting. I'm very sorry, samahani ndugu zangu kwa wale ambao hamjapata nafasi. Samahani kwamba watu walikuwa na mikakati mingine ambayo wanataka kuelekea na hatungeweza kuwapatia wote nafasi, lakini najua kutakuwa na kikao kingine ambacho tunaweza kuongea zaidi na zaidi. So mbarikiwe. Asante.
Asante sana. 1 minute is very short, but anyway, I'll try to use it effectively. First of all, thank you very much for this very big meeting. Everybody expected to talk because everybody has something to say. Many of these people are victims of what has happened, and unfortunately, we have a very short session, and some of them have even come with documents that they think the commission should look for. So I repeat to say that we need an opportunity, we need an avenue that the people can be heard. This has been a very short avenue, and I think the commission needs more time with the people, and the people have very high expectation with the African Commission, and therefore that I think we need to find a way of having all these things happening to ensure that the people have an opportunity. And of course, we argue our government also to give space for the people to explain their situation, and of course, ensure that there is observance of the rule of law. The lady that came here and failed to speak is not that because she doesn't have anything to say. There are people from Morogoro here, Mabwegere, who are also complaining that even after winning the cases in the Court of Appeal, they are not getting their right. So I think there is a need for ensuring that implementation of the rulings and decisions of the government and the courts that are given, even in Loliondo now, should be respected. And the role of the Commission is also seen as the next avenue that the people think they can get their right. Thank you very much.
Redora Edward P. Can you do Kara de Yul Rongana Monero Mare Paliki Yokam Kinyankatana Link? Kake anda yelona ka do ore lawyer ro ne wakilisha ko le kai ke kumodu ro ngana ko report ni ne yudu ne wasilisha tan commissioner ka ko le na ran kara ke endo ro bankara ke de lolo ne ke ata ka do ke bua asishore na ro limoki ana ro limoki ne do ke ro ngana le serikali ndo na ata ke hore ro ngana ngasia na limunye mba na isha ke no ra mba na yumizira ana ko na ni kilimuro amuna kara edim serikali la ra asishore ne de mara ni ne ro ngana.
First of all, I'd like to give my vote of thanks to all the audience and even to the commissioner. And secondly, I think our mom, the commissioner, you've really heard the cry of women. I stand here to represent the entire group of Maasai women. And because you're a mother, I think you will do what a mother can do. Thank you.
Commissioner Oramo Rayo Nera and Tasarana no yo. Radurki London Monon in Ngorongana and Conta Nation. Igara the last Shurokana Limukiamo, Randomonon and Aki make Araduki make Karadu and make it Rokana 9 minutes.
Okay, Joseph, 1 minute. No, go ahead. It's to you. 1 minute.
Okay, again, thank you very much. For 1 minute. One, the main problem of this country is law and order. We do not have anything known as law and order. Someone here from Malini, from Bunda, all of them, when the government want land, there is no consultation. Go tomorrow. And I think, Madam Commissioner, one of the things I think it is important for all of us, including you and us, to be looking into, we need to address this issue that the government can just come at will and dispose people as if they are no one. That's the most serious problem we are having. I said conservation is broken, but it's not only. Law and order is missing in this country. And if we cannot address this, we'll be crying every single day. Every single day. But I can repeat, because going to the themes of the topic, the conservation that we are having, I think we all have a moral obligation to bring it into its final demise. We do not want the conservation that kill people. We do not want this model at all. We do not want a conservation that serves people. We do not want conservations that is externally driven. It has nothing at all to do with animal welfare. I was listening to, last year, US was trying to block importation of the trophy huntings. And our director of wildlife, who is a main guardian of the wildlife, was so screaming, saying, this is going to affect the rural community living with the animals because we always hunt to help them. Then they attack the Maasai, saying we protect the wildlife. So in the name of protecting wildlife, you kill the rural community, then you kill the animals, saying you are literally to help the people. A lot of lies, never backed by science, but it works because we do not have rule of law. The last one, and particularly things to the Maasai community. One of the other problems we're having, I think this not have anything to do with the commissioner, is the constitution. A person, the president of this country, has power to kill everyone in this room. And no court can say, but why? So, it's displacing everyone because they know no court can say this is not. Our constitution says no court has power to question any crimes of the president. And I think we as a community, we have a moral obligation to also participate. Don't sit at your home and say it does not concern me. It concerns you more than anyone. Thank you very much. And maybe I can explain. Karedo, wale ntoki tohono na area nakop, na ntoki naji utawala sheria. Meri oltung'ani osuj entoki naji kembe baba. Kedumunye ake oltung'ani nidumu nees entoki nayieu meyiolo ajo meeta enikuni. Na tatizo kubwa nikiata. Kiata tatizo ya uhifadhi ni kweli, nemeyiok ake amesipa. Etii oltung'ani ng'ua Nyatole tene Temara. Etii oltung'ani ng'ua Malinyi tene. Etii Altoipayian ng'ua Msomera. Ore Msomera keramanaki ake torkekun obo. Etolimuo nayi ele kawi. Amu meya serkali ardhi tenkomono. Keponu ake neji embung'u taisere ashu doldolo yiok. Ore ina nemesawa. Najoki ntae irmaasai. Etii ntokitin na kamishna netii na yiok pookin, najoki ntae irmaasai. Ore tatizo nkae sapuk naa enkatiba nikiata. Sasa itipuopuo aaruja aajo miusu yiok nemuti ntae. Sasa kajokito ntae enyito sii ntae entejo kiyieu enkatiba sidai naret iloshon pookin nemetii oltung'ani inyali. Nemetii oltung'ani oinyalisho eyiolo ajo meeta enitaase. Akiyieu enkatiba naa kila oltung'ani oas kosa neya enkaji. Mee yiok ake nemeyie. Olo likae inyali hoja enake eja naa Enkai. Lazima pee kitum enkatiba naitodolu ajo metii oltung'ani le Enkai. Neeku nena kina najoito.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Samuel, 1 minute, closing remarks.
All I can say is that there is hope. There is hope for justice, for every wrong that has been occasioned by the dispossession of your ancestral land, and the fact that you have been evicted and abandoned to lavish in destitute and poverty. There is hope, and I can ensure you that justice will come. It may take a long while, but you will receive justice. Justice came for the Endorois, and justice came for the Ogiek. Justice will come to the Maasai. I call on you to remain resilient and united in this struggle to regain your land. One day, you have justice. Thank you very much.
Keredora Samuel, ore kuna bana na haki, nemetii akata haki naimena. Metaa enoto siligi ametii haki naimena. Amu ore apa iltung'anak le Kenya looji ogi enkulukuoni enye olelo kulie lootolimuo duo nisisitiza ajo ore ena siai negira aasa te dunia nalulung'a ashu toowuejitin kumok ake eorito iloopeny enkop enye. Kake metii akata lootudung'o osiligi newuo pesho metaa midung'udung'o osiligi keeta ake orkekun litumutumu hakini enaa irmaasai.
Thank you very much, Honorable Litha. As you respond to the questions which are predominantly directed to you, your closing remarks. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now I'll speak in English because these are very specific questions. I want to start with the fear that because the Commission was in the presence of the DC and we were carried in the local vehicles, we could not do justice to the job. When you'd go for a fact-finding mission or any research, speaking, you're having a spokesperson is a very tiny bit of fact-finding. A lot of fact-finding and the results that you end up with are informed by observations. You observe people. You can look at people and know these people have eaten or not. You don't need to be told by people, oh, we have not eaten. You can look at the mood of people that you are working with and be able to assess the mood. And you can know when people are lying. You can listen to people telling you things and you know they are giving you blunted lies. So I want to say that in this particular mission, we employed a lot of strategies to collect information. We did observation. We used a lot of social media. As we would be driving to one place, we would get information from social media and it would tell us where you are going to is not even where the problem is. Please divert. And we tell our colleagues, we tell them, no, we are not going here, we are going here. And they would say, but this is not what you said. We were getting information every time, what is happening. When we were given information that we felt it landed us in the wrong place, we asked, and what about this community? Then we'd be told, no, this community is not this one. Information from social media is so much. You have more than you need to be able to pick up the message. Samples, we had demonstrations. In one community, they came with salt and water and said, we want to demonstrate this to you. You can't refuse in front of the government. And this is another way of collecting information. So what I want, there are contradictions. People say this, then this say this, and then you are left to assess. And I think that is our work, able to determine from all this where is the weight of this discussion. So in terms of the fact that we were carried in government vehicles and we were in the presence of the DC does not distort our value judgment as a commission. The issue of the gate, somebody sent me a text message. You know, we have a problem. I would like to share with you the process that African Union, not just the Commission, African Union meetings, when they are hosted by a member state, we sign something we call host agreement. In the host agreement, we agree this is what the national government will do, this is what the AU will do, and this is what guides us. So normally, when I got the message, I quickly sent it to the protocol of AU to send to the protocol of the government, because that's how we work. I cannot start going to the gate, oh, Commissioner, no, this is not how it goes. You follow the rules that are laid down. We have 55 member states. Imagine if we go fighting at gates, everywhere we go, we will not have a union. So let us agree that there are things of procedure that the member states is supposed to follow and to assist. And that's why you are here eventually. It takes time, sometimes, because traditionally, and I've been hosting meetings myself, even in the United Nations, there were times we could enter United Nations very easily. We could even enter with a baby. Now things have changed because of terrorism. Institutions, this is a conference center. They have got rules about terrorism, how they vet people. It takes time. So I want to tell you it's not discrimination. It is the way things are done. If I came wearing Maasai dress and I was stopped, I would now be a sample. You are a sample. These are the things we are saying. So we can say, when we talk to government, we can say, well, we heard that there were cases, isolated cases, that happened not to everybody. So this is something that we need to agree and understand. I think the first question that was asked was to do with contempt of court. And I think, as at when we did that mission, if we picked anything to do with contempt of court, it will be in our report. But now we cannot come collecting information when the report is being written. So I want you to understand that we had a mission and we spent time to collect information. So we shall give a report of what we saw during the time we were here. We can now not start adding things onto the report. But you know, you have civil society here. You are free to continue collecting this information, but I can assure you that you don't need 10 examples to be able to identify a case. So it can be a case of contempt of court, can be cited in our report. And you don't need 10. One is enough to make the law and justice system here stop for a minute and reflect. So I think in that, I would say that if we pick it in our report, we will reflect it. I've been asked by one of the representatives why how soon are these reports done? A normal report takes the commission about 2 years, because usually the reports are meant to just assess the situation of human rights. There are no emergencies. But when you go to a country and you find an emergency, when we came to Tanzania, we were here in February. I want to tell you we pushed everybody to compile our report, to be able to reduce the time that this report will take. So this, in fact, will be a record in the books of the Commission, in the way in which we have tried to push this report to be out as fast as possible. So I want to assure you that even I and Commissioner Topsy Solu, we have not been sleeping. We have been asking about Tanzania report every day, and I want to tell you that we are giving it our best. It's a huge report, and we are trying to do our best. I think the last question, which was raised by Mama here facing me nicely, about women in leadership. I'll answer this question from where I've been all my life. Before I became a Commissioner for Human Rights, I was a fighter for women's rights. We have fought for women to be in decision-making. Women are in decision-making now, but women have found a lot of baggage from men. They have found a lot of baggage which has been left by regimes, and so what they are doing their best. We need women. African Union has been in existence for 60 years. if I want to remind you, we are celebrating 60th anniversary. Only 12 years ago, we had the first female president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who inherited a country which had been fighting for like 30 years. The second president was Joyce Banda, who inherited a country also which had its own issues. She was only there for 2 years, but she left a good leadership record. Madam Samia, Mama Samia, Her Excellency, is our third president. So we are saying you can even count the number of women who have been in this position. Men have been there for 50 years. All the work that they are finding and a lot of issues that they have to solve have been there. I don't want to accuse men leaders, but I want to tell my lady, I don't know where she is. We have just arrived in State House. We have just arrived in State House. We need more time to be able to undo some of the injustices that are there for the whole nation, not just for women, because that she's a leader of both men and women. But she carries with her the qualities that women carry to office. So I want to speak for her and say that when it comes to certain decisions, she will use the woman's lens. Women in office also have got advisors. And many times when you are head of state, and I'm talking this because I've been in the African Union for 20 years, heads of states do not just decide or say. They are told. Even here you can see, Francis is writing for me what to say. So sometimes, when you are before the camera, what your advisor writes you can say, but when you have a time to reflect on something, then you can add your views. I want to tell you that sometimes it's not just, when you are on the podium, you are not just saying what you think. You also you are given, this is what happened here, this you cannot say this, you can say this. So there is also that happening in the background. So let's agree that, like Mr. Ndesi has just said, that resilience is a very important thing in any struggle. If this is a struggle, we need to be resilient, we need to be very optimistic, and I want to tell you that we are doing our best as a commission to make sure your case is well understood and that you receive the kind of support and empathy from your government that it deserves. I thank you very much. I think that I'll stop there because I think there's a professor to say what's
Asante Madam Commissioner. Kile dola ambapo ni mama anaongea muda mrefu. Olesia yoni kwa style gave aitu taarifani ana ambaye ni kiro ningo ashana ambala kino commission. Ndio da ole tufiro na taarifani kitu tuliro mwain kumo amo ewa nedo nini kake nini ndikwa no si ole maogani ya sira enelio lisia benedile romani bemere ni kopia fili report ni kiboira amo kage sara ke yogane ni kara ba ndio da ole si alimu da ole si anga na mara jamba orgeti na gede do oide ni kibunu ejini do kona na ga ya mbala kinone keso amo kesain makubaliano wa yanko atahigi na na mwalo mama tahigi kibana ana Tanzania ole na mbala kinona asude eneo no ga ngani ado kumbi ni dana na mbala kinona asude na ra Nora que tuvo que ni la de mwisho. Ole angaina makana uswali na hiki kipana ki. Ndio kama ana ya mahakama na kugone menyerera kani yidi angamishi arasa. Ndio da ole na diyo ke ndoge ni kiasna beke se hake ripoti ni ya serikali ni kidoki kedia na wana ni jibu ashule si shore. Ndio ole na ina kama kibunu ne media na bae na ba ngene ba ba ja iko ngo ni kisungu to ngene la ka dori bodi na de ba kasere ba ya mo ke wo nyama ukimkwaji wa utaratibu kaki na mpaka bedirike sintomon liwe ya nyiti au liwe shimuni maamuzi ya mahakama bendi meribodi aba kaya maana ye kwa na kara ne dio bona bakesi ndala barungana dana bakijini umman ne dio aba kendo kini dela na ba kedi na ba kedi nga report ne runa asirga na masiara na jibunyina ne maga masia ngata report ene do oro shire ne bonu na ka report na yin wallahi na ba ke lari nari amamba ya sabu gana hawole na yusu amabalu no ren ne ababa darura na ba ka no ke wale commission oji sonu ai bi an ka ba honna de besri ya na report be de ma ba kan ka ba do ore mwisho ni jibu na romana ni kibigwanwa elikole ne magera na historia kidogo ondomana na ebo nganga sianedo ore da pera ni pera du Afrika au beru ni uhuru di Afrika ndomana kunyana rais andabana na Helen Johnson Liberia na kene bwana ko ni dia Allah habata Allah inoso bandabana na jibu banda Malawi na kene bwana na oba dia dua na malisa buke mwisho wangu leba ore la rasa mi anene ni ara kido edora ore yoga tomano na igenda aigen darora kara igenda kara ta baba na ru no lawa me do ito kwa fage lawa kara igenda kara ta baba na na to to na ile nyasara na mwisho ore ne mwisho neze to ore dia adwa elikorene ne bambanya na link angorore ndomono anawapigania wamama sana muda mrefu na amepigania haki zao na rake yebo maumivu na imarela ndomono bagi yela sina do kanyone sharilo bera sakini ndomono kage ni sistiza do ora na redona Samuel ore uvumilivu diadu wa mapambano ni dama ne muhimu na nini uvumilivu ni muhimu pende leo nganaye pambana amkaya yako mama ni haki ni aidia do kia kikisha do kenda baya unaje hado ripoti na ke kasundagi mepe kishado arasi shoreki ashi
ladies and gentlemen, mabibi na mabwana, naomba tumalizie mkutano hili. Tumejadiliana, tumeongea mengi, tumesikiza mengi, but let me speak in English, then my colleague will translate. I think the general consensus is we need to find a conservation model that reflects the African society. A conservation model that is founded on respect of human rights. A conservation model that is founded on free, prior, informed consent. A conservation model that takes into consideration the indigenous knowledge, the traditional knowledge that indigenous communities have when it comes to conservation and the role that indigenous communities play in conserving the environment. A conservation model that respects the indigenous people's right to self-determination, a model that reflects the indigenous people's right to property and to determine how they will dispense of their property. So through this all, as MIG, as Amnesty, as Human Rights Watch, and as partners that have come together to be able to organize this side event, our call for our fellow CSOs and NGOs is injustice for one is injustice for all. Let us come together to be able to advocate, continue advocating for the rights of these indigenous people, not only in Tanzania but around the world. We've heard from our colleagues in Kenya, we've heard from our colleagues in Rwanda. Honorable Lisa, you have a people who believe and trust in the Commission, and that I'm sure we can continue to count on the Commission advocating for the rights of the people within the continent. So I would like to say thank you very much for your time, thank you very much for your patience, and thank you very much for your honest deliberation and being able to candidly bring to light the issues that have been affecting the Maasai people. And as organizations that have come together to be able to organize this side event, our commitment to you is that we will continue advocating for your rights, is that we will continue speaking up for you when you do not have a voice, and that we will continue working together to ensure that we get to a model that respects human rights of indigenous people. Thank you very much.
Kile ndo ege mwisho ni shukuru bwagano hivyo anakigwana shukuru bwagano yanda anakigwana age ni sistizado radwana nedo lileta aka commissioner radwana do yokulorongana bwagen na yu uhifadhi na heshimu haki ya orongana keyu uhifadhi na heshimu ngishona orongana neye leonisiado orena na uhifadhi ni bwagana kenya budwa orongana ala kishakino lana yore hifadhi na ya unyeweji ne shimula la rwana kwa ina kwa kene ile wado rwana senta ba haki bimiliki amali na ba na shagino le bimiliki ni sistiza do maendelea ra icherikani rwana moja moja aibunga na bwishu kempambana na hapo na ba amo na ambaye ananenya kake teneke bigana bwishu nege abado kigwa haki tawala nabo ara mabano nemigi dunkama amo ke ara imani olitha commissioner ado kendelea commissioner roge rongana le Afrika biyo haki na shagenore ana anauro serikali ashole.
So I think at this point Joseph and Edward, yes, we can leave at our pleasure, but I think at this point Joseph and Edward, I just request you to assist us with a bit of housekeeping from our end. But I think, dear panelists, thank you very much for your time and for your input. You can leave at your pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.